Today, I'm joined by Miranda Menzies, who is a self-employed estate agent in Northamptonshire. And she's here to share her story because she's one of the few successful self-employed estate agents who's pulling up trees who never used to be an estate agent. Thanks for joining me today, Miranda.
Thank you.
Okay, you only became an estate agent 4 years ago, but before we talk about that, let's go back in time to when you were born in the early 70s. Whereabouts did you get brought up?
Yeah, so I got brought up on a council estate in Essex,
Whereabouts?
Basildon,
Okay.
well, Langdon, Basildon, and it was horrible. It was a bit like a war zone, to be honest with you. Everything was popping off. I was one of 5 children, and I couldn't wait to leave.
Right. Growing up, did you have a normal childhood?
It was difficult because it was a council estate and we didn't have anything. So I was one of quite a few children, and yeah, it wasn't a very nice area. I went to a school whereby people kind of expect you to fail, and nobody does particularly well. Um, and if I went to school or not wasn't a big deal for anybody. Nobody kind of looked out for us or anything.
What, so you didn't really matter whether you went to school or not?
No, and I didn't a lot of the time.
Wow. So what were you doing then? Working?
Yeah, working. I used to work nights at a factory. Couldn't do it now, but I was a teenager. I used to go in and work nights, cash in hand. Um,
What, as a 13, 14-year-old?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I was doing paper rounds since gosh, I was very, very young. So I was looking forward to getting to an age whereby I could.
You could leave at six. So did you leave home and school at 16 then?
I did, yeah. Yeah, I joined the RAF. So I'm definitely one of those people born in Essex but made in the RAF.
What made you want to join the RAF?
I wanted a bit of structure. I wanted a bit of discipline in my life. I wanted a bit of normality, and I'm very good with routine.
Was it an escape from being brought up? And as I said, off camera, you said it was a challenging way that you were being brought up. You were looking for kind of like a home to be belong.
100%, yeah. Yeah, part of the team. And when you join the forces, you
You really are.
you really are.
I mean, you could have joined the police, or you could have joined any of the other
I
two
could have done.
services.
Yeah.
What made you go for the RAF?
Um, it was the first one I looked at, to be honest. The very first one I looked at. I remember I was 16. I got the train because nobody in my life had a car. I got the train from where I lived to Southend-on-Sea, where the recruitment place was. And I remember pitching up, doing my test and doing my interviews, thinking, gosh, if I don't get through here, I don't know what I'm going to do. So thank goodness they accepted me.
Yes, because as I said, if you weren't going to school, I'm assuming you didn't get any qualifications.
No, no,
Did the RAF give you what you wanted?
absolutely. I loved it. I absolutely thrived. Yeah, I think I was probably one of about 25 women on the course when I got to Swinderby. I was 16. I was the youngest by far. And and by the end of it, as each phase went through, the course was getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And there was probably half the amount of women left at the very end to pass out. And I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm failing this. The option for failure is not there.
And that fire in your belly came because, again, if you don't mind me saying, we'll come on to this later in the video, is that the one thing that's I've always been impressed with you, and the reason you're here today is the fact that you're putting most of your self-employed estate agency colleagues to shame with what you do with regard to the fact that A, you weren't a bloody well estate agent, and B, the business that you've brought in. So I was trying to find out that fire in the belly, and by the sounds of it, you had a tough childhood, and by the sounds of it, did that put your fire in your belly? Said, I need to change my life, otherwise I'm just going to be like the rest of my family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I love my family, don't get me wrong. My parents have passed now, but I am the only one with that fire in the belly. So, it's
Yes, because if you've been brought up in a challenging household environment, that can either drag you down or it can
one of two
catapult you.
ways. One of two ways. Lots of the girls I was at school with left very early and they had babies very early, and all the rest of it. Which is, I'm not here to judge, and I'm not ashamed of my background. But I knew for me that I I wanted to get away and I wanted to improve myself.
So the RAF gave you, I mean, RAF Swindon is literally just up the road from here. It's,
Yes, it is. Yep.
it's now a housing estate though,
I
isn't it?
know. So sad.
There you go. In fact, I was only driving past there literally 36 hours ago on
Were
the way
you?
to Lincoln. So yeah, love it to bits. I don't know if you're aware now, but there's that old, you know, there's a Lancaster that they've made a real size Lancaster and put it on the hill.
Yes,
Just
I
up,
have.
yeah.
I do. And I remember very fondly memories of going out for the weekend in Lincoln because, it was just all exciting to me. I felt like I started living. It was lovely.
So you were in the RAF for 6 years.
Yes.
What part of the RAF were you in?
Supply.
Okay, so that's quite a structured, process-driven
Yes.
act of you do strike me as a process person, but you don't strike me as a geeky process person.
No,
Did you get bored? Because you're only in for 6 years,
I
weren't
did
you?
get bored. And I tried to what they call remuster. I wanted to be a PTI, so fitness. But there was another trade I was interested in as well, but there was two options. But the trade was never open when I was looking to change. So although supply and being in the RAF was one of the best things I've done in my life, probably second best to having my kids, didn't give me the growth. And I just thought I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. So I made the decision to leave, which was a scary decision because it had given me so much.
Now, when you were around in your early 20s, you left the RAF and you went and bought a Rosemary Connolly Diet and Fitness Club. I think I probably could do with some of that. Okay. What made you, that was, if you don't mind me saying, that's quite a divergence.
Yeah, well, it is and it isn't. I think if like people knew me in the Air Force, I was picked up to run for the Air Force quite early on. So I represented the Air Force and then combined services. I used to compete against Kelly Holmes and all sorts in athletics. So I was one of those people that probably only did a 3.5 day week because in those days when the forces were a lot bigger, they were big. They invested into the sports people to represent them. So I was off training. I used to go to Calgary for training camps, and they really did invest in their air people to get better results sports wise against the other.
Navy, don't we? Oh, and senior service, don't they?
Yeah, so it was really competitive. It was good. It was good friendly rivalry, but I loved it. It was camaraderie. That's what it was all about. So for me, fitness was a natural progression. And the wonderful thing about the armed forces was then, and again, I'm not sure if it is now because it's got so much smaller, like so many other things have, is that they give you resettlement courses. So when you're about to leave, they send you on courses and they pay for you to go on courses. So I actually went to college and I did lots of proper qualifications in fitness, and I got really quite qualified by the time I'd left.
So you decided that you would buy a franchise.
Yes.
I mean, it's your own business, but under a brand, which is very similar, if you think about it, to self-employed estate agency. I mean, I used to sell the Belvoir franchises, so I know what it's like.
Yes.
From a franchisor point of view.
Absolutely.
Did you enjoy your time?
I loved it. Again, absolutely loved it. I mean, I remember going to the bank as I was about to leave the RAF in Stamford because my last posting was Wittering, so I lived in Stamford. I went along to my bank and I said, I want to borrow £25,000. Oh, what do you want to borrow it for? I want to buy a franchise. I've done my business plan. I was so passionate. And the bank manager said to me, well, we'd need to look to see what you've got in your account. I mean, I definitely wasn't overdrawn, and what you've got financially. And I said, well, I haven't really got much money because you didn't get paid much in the RAF as a SACW at the time. I said, but I know I can make it work. And I looked him in the eye and I was like, I know I can make it work. And he loaned me the whole lot. He loaned me the 25k. Obviously went through my business plan with me, which I've still got to this day, because nowadays it's all well, now you don't write it down in paper, but I did. It was a proper HSBC business plan, and I had to work out how many classes I would teach, how many the average number of people I'd have in a class, what my management fee was, so I went through the whole thing, what my forecast was for the next few years. And he lent me the whole 25k, which is scary because I had to pay all that back myself, of course.
In the first 1 or 2 years, is there anything you'd have done differently?
No, probably not worked quite so hard. No, it sounds ridiculous.
I mean, you were in your early 20s at the time.
Oh,
had you met your future husband by now?
Yes, yeah, I met him when I was 19. So
is he ex-RAF?
yes, yeah.
Did he stay in there a long
He
time?
did, yeah, he did 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like to have his pension.
Well, he's retired now, so say no more.
There you go. There you go. That's very nice. And do you still live in the Wittering kind of? I know you're Northamptonshire based, so I'm assuming you live in the Northamptonshire area,
I do, yeah. So
Wittering, Gorbury, around there.
absolutely. So when I left the armed forces, obviously I was in Stamford, Lincolnshire, and the franchise works on postcodes and 100 people population. You just choose as many postcodes as long as it's no more than 100,000 people. And the Stamford postcode where I lived was actually taken by somebody else. And I had actually, I know, I said to Rosemary Conley, literally, I'll have, okay, Rosemary, I'll have Corby, Kettering and Wellingborough. And I'd never been there before in my life. So that was a bit of a bold move. So I bought a postcode. I bought 3 postcodes that I'd never lived in before. And
Well, they're only kind of you're roughly you're on your
I,
doorstep-ish.
I suppose in a way it's not like selling houses. I wouldn't have done that as an agent because I need to know the local area and I know my local area really well. But in terms of setting up a fitness club, it was a bit different.
Well, it's quite smart actually because you've got 3 population centres, so you've got 3 pots to go at. And I'm assuming probably okay, you need to have a bit more marketing, but it's easier to. I bet you'd rather have 3 at 30,000 than 1 at 100,000.
And that's exactly what I did. I did it. I chose a chunk of Corby, Kettering, and a little bit of Wellingborough, and then the areas around me weren't taken. But of course, people travel.
I think that's a lesson learned for a state agency actually. When I was at Belvoir head office, which is literally as a crow flies about 800 yards in that sort of direction, there is actually an optimum size for an estate agency area.
Oh, right.
And we plotted the number of households versus income. And you would expect that as the number of households would rise, then the income would rise, and then probably leveled off a bit. Do you think?
Hmm.
Well, actually, it went like this.
Oh, right.
A
Okay, that's
classic,
interesting.
classic bell curve.
Yeah.
And the optimum size for a letting an estate agency was just under 40,000 households.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
That's why I thought it was very smart that you actually got 3 smaller areas than 1 big one.
Yeah. But later on, I didn't. I bought them all later on because then you could just buy postcodes instead of paying 25 grand again. Once you're a successful franchisee, you could then buy pockets and buy postcodes. So that's what I did. I bought an extra postcode. I created 100,000. I built it up and then I sold it on to an employee.
When did you sell it to the employee?
This was ongoing over the years. I mean, I remember when I had my son, he's 23 now. I sold one just after that.
Did you retain ownership of were you selling off little bits on the edges then?
Yes. Well, no. I had to, you can only sell a franchise if it's 100,000 people in it. So I started in a particular area and then I just bought extra postcodes. I had employees working with me. And then I got to a point where I had children I wanted to scale down. I created a business in itself of 100,000 and they bought that off me. And then I didn't employ them and I just carried on in my area.
So when did you get married?
I got married in 1999.
And the children came along when?
2000. 2000 and 2001.
So business was going really well, and then something drastic happened in your life in 2005, didn't it?
It did.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen what you did. What happened?
I was out running because I was getting ready for another. I still continued with my fitness, and obviously because it was my job. And it was a Sunday evening. I was getting ready for a run. I wanted to do a particular number. I can't even remember what it was. But anyway, I felt good. Was the long and short of it was. It was about 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening in January, and my kids were just playing around in the house. I went for my run, and I had a brain hemorrhage whilst I was running, a subacral hemorrhage, and it literally had an explosion inside my head. And I can remember coming back to the front door and calling my husband towards me, and the kids were still playing.
So you were still conscious?
I was conscious. Most people die instantly, or 50% of people literally black out. I had an explosion in my head and I felt the blood flushing down my vertebrae and my spine. It's when you read a textbook what happens during a subacral hemorrhage that I can tell you and talk you through exactly what it was like. And then I said to my husband, "Yeah, I've had a brain hemorrhage." And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I've had a brain hemorrhage." So long story, he ended up in A&E. I was just horrendous in A&E. They put me in a side ward. The nurse kept coming in saying, "Oh," I was like, "Don't put the light on, don't put the light on. Oh, I think you've had your migraine." I said, "I haven't had a migraine." The registrar came on in the morning, Monday morning, said, "Why has this woman not had a scan?" I had a scan, and then before I knew it, I was being blue lighted to John Radcliffe Oxford, and I was in surgery. So that was, I was 31 at the time. I was
Were
fit.
there any signs on the way up on the
No,
before?
nope, no headaches.
So just basically something went pop
A
in your
bolt
brain.
out of blue. Yeah,
It just went pop.
it did.
What was the road to recovery like?
The road to recovery was emergency surgery, where they went through my groin and they put a clip into the bleed that was in the back of my brain. Um, and they said, "Oh, she's probably not going to survive." This is what this conversation I had with my husband. I didn't remember much about it because I was so poorly. And then
So you're conscious all the time.
I was conscious, but I was just going downhill rapidly, and my speech was getting, everything was going. So they had to get to me into surgery because I'd had this massive bleed. So they patched me up and they just said, "Well, you've got to stay, and we don't know what's going to happen to you. You might have a stroke. You could die at any moment. It's emergency surgery. We sorted you out." Um, and then for the next 4 years, I kept having scans because it was growing back. So in 2009, I had another big major brain operation called a craniotomy. Well, I've got a massive scar at the back of my head. They could cut a trap door in the back of your head, and they physically put two big clips on, so it can't go anywhere. And then they observed me for a few years after that, and then they signed me off, which is really scary to think that you just continue as normal.
Between 2005 and 2009, did you know you had a ticking time bomb in your head?
Yes, I did.
How did that affect your outlook in life, good and bad?
Um, I think how that affected my outlook in life was I looked at my children when I had in 2005, my daughter was 4 and my son was 3. And I looked at them and all I wanted to do in my life, I think because of my background, was be a good mum. If I was going to have kids, I wanted to do it right. And I just like, I know it sounds a bit weird, but I wasn't going anywhere. I knew I wasn't going anywhere. And that was going to be fight inside me, even when they told my husband. And I knew they'd told him really bad news because he came and gave me a kiss before I went down to surgery. I knew I wasn't going anywhere. And you can call that a sixth sense or just call that what you want. But I just knew I wasn't going anywhere. It was obviously I had anxious times during those 4 years. But when you go to a hospital like John Radcliffe and you talk to the brain surgeons, you feel so relaxed. You know you're in the best hands, and you know that previously they've saved your life. So I think I had a lot of faith in the NHS and my doctors as well.
Was that grit and determination again coming back from the tough childhood that you had?
I think so. I think I probably was made like this, if I'm honest, because I've got a daughter who she's she's 25 and she's had a very privileged childhood, and she's been sent to very well educated, and she's just a little me. So
Mini me.
yeah, which is funny because it makes you think, I
So
wonder what I would have done if I'd been her. It's one of those, isn't it?
I often say that I stripped my mother's womb of all the happiness because my brothers are miserable, God bless him. And by the sounds of it, the DNA of you versus your siblings found like you got all the fight and the grit and the determination. Whilst you were doing all this, were you still doing the Rosemary Connolly or I think they got out of
I was
business or
still,
something?
my business carried on for like the 28 years. We rebranded and called it different names,
Okay.
but in effect, in essence, it was the same
Put
thing.
your fork down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well,
Obviously, I can't talk. I like this stuff a bit too much. So we roll the clock forward to just after COVID.
yeah.
I can actually remember you coming on board. Sean Newman is a friend of mine, and I do every once in a while go along to your meetings. And I can remember, I think you were 6 months in and you were pulling trees up. And I pulled Sean aside and asked about you. I said, where she used to be an estate agent. She said, she isn't.
Hmm.
I was impressed then. And then I saw you again at the Tom Panos conference in the summer. And I said, right, it's time to tell your story on the sofa.
Hmm.
So let's get down to nitty gritties what the hell did someone who basically tells people to run more on diet What the hell gives you the right to come in and teach us all how to do it? How the hell have you, you know, you've mentioned the figures offline, and we're not going to mention the figures here, but you know, if you would be in the top 1 or 2% of a certain large self-employed estate agency model with what you've said, what the hell did you do? No, before we answer that, what the hell did you do? Why did you want to be an estate agent, you prat?
It's something I ask myself on a daily basis.
Because okay, previously you were dealing with fat people who didn't want to do any exercise. Now you're dealing with bloody people who are the most blame you for everything, shout at you, everything's your problem. And that's why probably most estate agents end up alcoholics anyway, because we basically everything's our fault. Bring it on. Come on. Why did you want to be an estate agent?
Well, it's an industry, let's be honest with you, that needs changing.
Oh, don't give me that rubbish.
But
Come
it is true.
on.
It's true, isn't
No,
it?
you don't wake up saying, "Oh, I want to be an estate agent." You sound like them bloody landlords that want to set up a letting agency because they've had a shit service. Please don't tell me you wanted to be an estate agent because you had a shit service. Please, is that you?
No,
So come on, what? Don't tell me it was you watching Homes Under the Hammer and thinking,
no, never watched that.
oh, thank God.
There's
Tell
a
you what,
Hollywood one or a one from.
Selling Sunset.
Never
No,
seen it. Not interested.
no, okay.
Okay, so what made me want to do it? So I tell you what made me want to do it. In terms of my fitness career, I've taken it as far as I can take it.
Were you getting bored?
Yes, 100%. I probably did it for about 10 years more than I should have done, purely because I wanted to take my kids to school every day. I wanted to pick them up from school every day. It fitted in. You know, as a woman with children who wants a career, they used to come to class with me in the school holidays. You know, it just fitted in, and I thought, I don't want to go to the city. I had some friends who worked in the city, did really good jobs. I don't want to do that because I want to be there for my kids. That for me was first and foremost. So it got to a point where both my children didn't need me anymore. I need a knee replacement because I've worn my knees out because I've done so much exercise for so many years, and it was during the pandemic. I have some buy-to-let properties, and I was in the letting agent who managed my buy-to-let properties for me, and the phones were going crazy, crazy, crazy. And I just joked to them and said, do you want me to pick up the phone? They said, oh, do you mind? And I ended up working there one day a week in a letting agent, so for a very short time. And I was just watching, and because it was letting predominantly, but they did sales as well. And I was just sitting back, I was watching, and I was just listening and just taking it all in and thinking, not in an arrogant way, but just thinking I would have handled that conversation like that. My approach would have been this, you know. And then I went away, and I was like rapidly franchises, because obviously my background was franchising. How can I get a franchise and be an estate agent? I wasn't stupid enough to think that I could just set up an estate agency myself. I needed people behind me that have got the industry knowledge. You know, a fitness club, yeah, I can do that. But what do I know about selling houses? So that's how I become.
So you went and did your searching,
Yeah.
and you ended up with Sean Newman's Property Experts.
Yes. Newman Property Experts at the time.
Yes. You pulled some trees up, didn't you?
Well, so I'm told. I mean, in my little world, I'm just.
You did. I'm telling you. You
Yeah.
did.
Yeah. I think, and again, I shouldn't say this. I'm probably sound like I'm selling myself a bit short. But when I started, the market was a very different place then to how it is now.
Okay, but there's plenty of people that started at EXP at the same time, and they're still doing hand to mouth.
Okay. Well, I think you do create your own luck, but I to a certain degree, I felt like I was lucky because of the market, and I got 5 on and sold 5 in my first 5 weeks. I remember the 5s. And I actually used my lack of industry knowledge to my advantage.
Go on.
And people were ready for that.
So you were being authentic.
Yeah. I mean, I went into my first market appraisal. And this property, you've heard it a million times before. It was on with 3 agents, not getting any viewings, not getting any contact with the agent. I went in, I looked a guy in the eyes and said, look, I can't promise you I'm going to sell your house. He was desperate to go to Spain and start his new life. And he thought we had an unsellable house. I can't promise you, but I can promise you I'm going to give you the best work ethic that anybody can show you. I've never sold a house before, and I didn't lie, you know, but let me show you, and I'd like you to help me, and I won't let you down. And I definitely didn't let him down. It was one of those textbooks open house event, 30 people booked, 5 viewings over asking. You know, it was one of those. And then he went on my social media and did a little video testimony. I didn't ask him to, and just said, I can't believe what this woman's just done. You know, and then I got another one, and then you know, just
And you were being taught well from Sean and his team.
Sean's great. I mean, Sean is really good. And I think if you, I mean, they Sean had a model, and I was ready to say to him, Sean, your model doesn't work. I fully expected to say that because I approached it the same way I approached joining the Air Force. I can't fail at this. Getting through my brain hemorrhage, I can't fail at this. Being a shit mum, I'm not going to be a shit mum. You know, I'm going to have successful, happy, nice people. So I approached it the same way. So Sean said on the course, you have to do social media posts every day, put a little video about yourself, the local area, so people will know, like, and trust you. Do some door knocking, people on the market. Introduce yourself to small businesses who've got big followers. Maybe go and interview the butcher who's got a lot of followers. So I did it all. I did it all. And then my success come, but I fully expected at the back of my head, like, well, if this Sean Newman estate agent is sold me something that doesn't work, I'll be telling him. You know, that I remember having that thought, but it did work.
Hey, but at least you did it. That's the thing.
But I kept doing it. This is the thing.
That's
I
the
didn't
thing.
stop.
A, you have to start, and B, you have to be consistent. It's like these video sofa chats. I could stop doing these, and it would have no effect on my business whatsoever for a year.
Yeah.
But then it would. And then,
Exactly.
and then it would take an awful lot more effort to bring it back up.
And that's the thing in business. Even when my classes, going back to my previous work, even when my classes had a reserve list, and they did, you know, I'd do 2 classes in one night and I'd have 100 people over the 2 classes, I would still advertise. I would still do X, Y, Z, because in business you can't afford to relax and stop, because you just don't know you can't take anything for granted.
So now, you know, you're selling what, 10, 15 houses a month?
I'm terrible at my figures, honestly. Sean says to me things like this, and I'm like, I've completed on 57 this year.
So we're filming this in late summer, and you must have a decent pipeline. So that's you know, so it's probably in the order of about 10 a month, 8
Yeah.
or 9 a month.
Yeah. By the end of this year, it'll be about 100.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Making a decent living,
Yeah.
enjoying it.
Yes.
What would your message be to any self-employed estate agents who are worried about making the move? What advice would you give them?
Well, I do get people ringing me all the time and saying, "Oh, I've seen you. I'm thinking about being an agent. My background's fitness, or my background's PT, or whatever. You know, you've done it, so it must be easy," type thing. And I'm like, hmm. And sometimes I speak to people and I think, interesting. Some people have got a lot of confidence and without doing a lot of research, and that might make me sound quite big-headed. But I think you've got to. The biggest thing for me is I can be self-employed, and I'm made of stuff that can be self-employed and can weather the storm, because running your own business,
That's the big one, isn't
it
it?
is the biggest one. Having children, being pregnant. I was in the hospital while having my son, and I still had work with me. You know, it's just, and I don't mind. I don't want any sympathy for that. But I know what it takes to be self-employed, and I can be self-employed.
Because I don't know about you, but I go to some of these events, and they're self-employed, but you know damn well their mindset is still an employed agent.
Yeah. Well, you know, from my life, from being born, I've never had the luxury of really having anything regular coming in, apart from my time when I was in the armed forces. So I've always had to go out there and be like a caveman almost. You know, you bring you work, you graft, you bring the bread home for the table.
So you could almost say that a tough childhood was actually a gift to you.
You could say that. I mean, that's
Now it's
that's
very no. It might not seem it from your point of view, but it gave you a grounding and a fire in your belly.
that not everybody has, though, from the same childhood.
No,
Um,
no, but that okay, it's nature and nurture, and
It's
you know,
hard to
there has
say.
to have been something in there DNA wise
Yeah,
for it to ignite and fire on, because it's still obvious that you're pulling trees up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, going
And
back,
go on.
sorry, going back to what I said, you know, my daughter she's very much got the fire in the belly, same as me, and she had a very different background to what I had. Now,
Yeah.
whether that's just me parenting her, it's hard to say, isn't it?
because that's going to be a challenge. If she's had a good upbringing, is that quite often when people have had upbringings, they haven't got the same fire in
Exactly.
them.
Exactly.
That's the challenge. I mean, we weren't blessed with children, so I wouldn't know what it's like, but that's going to be your next challenge, isn't it?
Well, not really, because she's done it. She's 25. She's grown up. So, and she's been very, she's been very well educated and had nice
What
holidays.
does she do?
She's a doctor.
Fantastic. And your other child?
He's a pilot.
Here you go then. Just say you need a brain surgeon, and you've got you covered with in case it goes wrong again.
Well, that's why she went into it. From the age of 4 years old, when Mummy had a bug in her head, this is what we used to call it, because I didn't want to upset them, obviously. We just, we had to talk to her. She always wanted to be a doctor from that moment. And for anybody knowing what it's like to be a doctor, it's not an easy feat to be a doctor. It's not good enough to be clever. It's not, you've got to literally be the process. There was been many times over the years I've kind of wished, oh, why didn't you just want to be an estate agent? All right.
But if you think about it, your illness actually caused her to do that, which is a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Again, and Tom Panos always says the best things in life often come from the worst presents.
100%. 100%. And you know what? She is lovely. She really is making a massive difference to the NHS where, for all the fighting it took to get there, I'm so proud of her that she was resilient and she continued. So yeah, that's obviously reminiscent of things I've done.
And moving forward, you're still going to be on in this self-employed estate agency, just enjoying it, just enjoying the journey.
Yeah, I mean, enjoying is a funny word, isn't it? It's a roller coaster because some days I'm like, oh, I'm going back to fitness. I think everyone watching this will think the same. It's not enjoyable. I know
everything's our fault. We get shouted at. Everything's our fault.
Yeah, sometimes you do feel like you're swimming against the tide compared to my last career because it was very fluffy. Everyone used to come to me, oh, I love your class. Oh, I've lost £5. I've lost 10 stone. And we used to do charity events. We used to go on spa weekends, and it was all very, very fluffy. Whereas this industry, I have to really dig deep sometimes, and I have to find tools and armor inside me, which I have not looked at for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I've just done some posts recently which are coming out in a few months' time. They don't see us trying to hold a chain together at 9 o'clock at night. They don't see us trying to get a solicitor off his or her backside. And then they go and leave us a Google review, 4-star. Yeah, they helped us move house.
I know, honestly, sometimes, I think what I've learned to do though, and I've had to have regular sort of inner conversations with myself, if I can't deal with those situations and put them in compartments in my head without it affecting me on my daily basis and in my family life generally, then I'm in the wrong job. So you have to be able to separate. You have to be made of something whereby you can have a strong conversation with a solicitor or another estate agent, is what I find often in my area. I'm sure it's everywhere. But then you have to be able to put that to rest, lay that down, and then go into a market appraisal and be a positive person. And
yeah, you might be dealing with shit on the car, but then that can't affect you when you're dealing
exactly.
You've got
to switch it off, and then when you come out of work and you're with your family, you can't let that affect you. The day it starts really, really affecting you is the day that you say, "Well, I need a different job." It can't. It's not worth it. Life's too short.
Well, I would actually say that being in the forces or being a publican or being an estate agent, and I'm sure there's other jobs, it is kind of a way of life. And the forces, it is a way of life.
100%. Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, at least we haven't got to wear a uniform, unlike the RAF, which is, although I do actually like the RAF uniform. Right. Okay. Well, thank you for your time today. Thank you for your insight. It's been absolutely fascinating. I've loved the time to get to know you a bit better. I knew you were good, but I didn't know you were this good. So thank you very much. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you.